Hey everyone, today we're going to dive into a concept that honestly is everywhere, from sports all the way to economics. It's called a zero-sum game, and it really gets to the core of what competition is all about.
So let me ask you this. For you to win, does someone else have to lose? I mean, is that just how the world works? Is life this big competition for a limited pile of stuff? Or is there a way for everyone to actually come out ahead? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, a winner and a loser. Then we'll jump into the world of zero-sum, and after that, we'll flip the script and look at how to create a win-win. We're going to bust a few myths along the way, and then we'll see how all of this connects back to, well, our own minds.
All right, first up, a winner and a loser. We're getting into the basics of something called game theory here.
So let's dive into the world of zero-sum. The best way to think about this is the fixed pie concept. Okay, so here's the official definition, straight out of game theory. A zero-sum game is basically a situation where one person's gain is exactly equal to another person's loss. You add up the wins, you subtract the losses, and the grand total is zero, always. Your win is perfectly mathematically balanced by my loss. And this cake analogy, it's perfect. Seriously, just picture a cake. That cake is not getting any bigger. So any slice you take is a slice I can't have. If you get a bigger piece, my piece automatically gets smaller. The total amount of cake, it stays exactly the same. And you see this play out everywhere, right? Think about games like poker or chess. There's one winner, one loser. Simple. Sports are the same deal. And even in finance, certain things like options or futures contracts are built this way. One trader's profit on a contract is another trader's direct loss. Now, things can get a little more technical, but it's super interesting. Game theorists use this tool, it's called a payoff matrix, to map all this out. Don't worry about trying to read every little detail here. The main idea is that this grid shows every possible move and what happens to each player as a result. Let's break it down with a simple example. You've got player red and player blue. Look at the numbers. No matter what they do, the outcome is always a perfect mirror. If red wins 30, you can bet blue is losing 30. If red loses 10, blue gains 10. The net change, you guessed it, always zero. That is the heart of a zero-sum game.
But what if the pie isn't fixed? What if we could work together and actually make the pie bigger for everyone? This is where we get into a totally different kind of game. This is what we call a win-win, or a positive-sum game. In this scenario, the total benefit can be more than zero. It's not about me winning at your expense. It's about creating a situation where we are all better off than when we started.
So let's put them side by side, because this is the key difference. Zero-sum, the pie is fixed. Win-win, the pie can actually grow. Zero-sum is all about dividing value. A win-win is about creating new value. One is purely competitive. The other opens the door for cooperation and mutual gain. You know, international trade is a fantastic real-world example of this. Picture this. One country has way too many bananas, and another has a huge surplus of apples. If they trade, they both benefit. They both get something they want more than what they gave away. Value has literally been created for both sides. It's a classic win-win. Okay, so knowing the difference between these two is super important, mainly because people get it wrong all the time. We tend to apply that zero-sum logic to situations where it just doesn't fit. All right, let's tackle a big one, the stock market. Is it a zero-sum game? I mean, when your stock goes up, does that money have to come directly from someone else's pocket? The answer is no. That is a classic zero-sum fallacy. So why not? Well, because the whole market can grow. The pie gets bigger. Companies innovate. They become more profitable. They create new wealth. When a company does well, its valuation increases, and all the shareholders can benefit. It's not just about shuffling existing money from one person to another. Okay, what about politics? This one's tricky. With all the conflict and competition, it sure feels like a zero-sum game a lot of the time, doesn't it? Well, here's the thing. It's not inherently zero-sum, but if you apply zero-sum logic to it, you can absolutely turn it into one. See, the problem is that politics and the economy aren't like a game of chess. They aren't these perfectly conserved systems with fixed rules. Cooperation is possible, and it can lead to outcomes where everyone benefits. The real danger is when we start treating politics like a zero-sum game. That mindset, the whole any gain for them is a loss for us, it just creates unnecessary hostility and makes us miss out on chances for everyone to move forward. And this brings us to our final and maybe the most important point of all. because this isn't just about game theory anymore. This is about how we actually perceive the world around us.
There's a big difference between a situation that is actually a zero-sum game and something psychologists call zero-sum thinking. This is a mindset. It's a personal, subjective belief that a situation is a competition for a fixed pie, even when it isn't. It's the gut feeling that your gain must be my loss.
And that mindset has real-world consequences. When we apply that zero-sum logic, we create this totally unnecessary and, frankly, harmful sense of scarcity and hostility. We end up turning potential win-win situations into lose-lose conflicts, just because we assumed it had to be a fight from the start. So here's what I want to leave you with. Think about it. How many of the so-called games in your own life could actually have a win-win solution? Before you assume it's a competition, it's worth asking, is there a way to make the pie bigger for everyone? How many situations at work or at home might look like a battle but could actually be an opportunity for everyone to win?